My mother-in-law poisoned my marriage by telling my husband I was cheating with every repairman who visited. He believed her lies and became abusive, eventually divorcing me for adultery. I lost custody of my kids and lived alone for 5 years. When security footage from her own cameras proved her manipulations, my ex-husband's new wife got very interested. My name's Lauren, 32 years old, female. I never thought I'd be writing something like this, but my life feels like a cautionary tale somebody should have warned me about. I married Mark, 34, male, when I was 25. We had what everyone called a storybook romance. He was steady, kind, the type who still opened car doors and made coffee for me in the mornings. We built a small, messy, beautiful life. 2 kids, a fixer-upper home, date nights at the diner down the road. For a while, I thought I had it all. Then there was her, his mother, Carol, my mother-in-law. From day one, she didn't like me. No, that's too soft. She hated me, but in this cold, calculating way where she'd smile for photos and then mutter digs under her breath when no one else could hear. A little young to settle down, don't you think? Your hair looked nicer before he met you. Hope you can actually cook, or my son will starve. I brushed it off in the beginning, because isn't that just the stereotype? Overbearing Emils being catty? But Carol wasn't just catty, she was deliberate. The thing about Carol is, she had this power over Mark that I never understood until it was too late. He worshipped her, almost boyishly. She was the type who'd call him in the middle of our date night, and he'd actually leave the table to drive over and fix her faucet. She had a way of crying at just the right moment, making herself the fragile victim so he'd drop everything to play hero. And he always did. At first, I told myself it was sweet. A man who loved his mom. But that love turned sour, territorial. She couldn't stand the idea that I had any place in his heart. And the cracks started showing in the ugliest ways. It began with the repairman comments. Anytime a plumber, electrician, or delivery guy came by, she'd casually ask Mark if he noticed how friendly I was being. She'd say it like a joke, but her eyes never blinked. Hope Lauren isn't too lonely while you're at work with all these men coming in and out. Stuff that sounded absurd, but she said it enough times that it burrowed into him. I remember the first fight it caused. We'd just had the water heater replaced, and later that night, Mark accused me of acting too giggly with the technician. I laughed at first because, what the hell? But he wasn't laughing. He punched the wall beside me so hard that the picture of our wedding day crashed to the floor, glass shattering everywhere. I picked up the frame later, cutting my hand on a shard, staring at our smiles trapped behind broken glass. That felt like an omen. Carol escalated from there, whispering poison in his ear every chance she got. I just don't want you to be made a fool of. Men like repairmen, delivery guys, they know how to charm bored housewives. Every sentence dripped like venom, disguised as concern. And Mark drank it in. The man who once held me like I was his safe place began looking at me like I was a stranger he couldn't trust. And that's how the unraveling began. The accusations didn't stop. They got louder, uglier. If the mailman lingered at the door for more than 30 seconds, Mark would grill me about what we talked about. When the HVAC guy came to tune up the furnace, Mark actually came home early from work and stood in the kitchen, arms crossed, watching me like I was about to jump the man's bones on the spot. I kept saying, "Mark, this is insane. You know me, you know us." But the problem was, he didn't know me anymore. He only knew what his mother whispered. One night, he came home drunk after talking with Carol. I could smell her perfume on him, which made me sick because it told me he'd been hugging her, letting her comfort him like he was a boy instead of a husband. He staggered in and slammed a pile of receipts on the counter. Pizza delivery, a plumber, the landscaping guy. He demanded I explain why all these men were at our house when he wasn't there. My hands shook as I tried to tell him, because the sink broke, the yard needed mowing, and our kids need to eat. He didn't want the truth. He wanted a fight. That night he shoved me against the fridge so hard a magnet cracked. The kids, our babies, were upstairs, crying. I'll never forget their little voices yelling, "Mommy!" while I held my side and tried not to sob. That was the first time I thought, I might not survive this marriage. Carol was smart, though. She never made the accusations in front of me. Only behind my back, only in his ear. And Mark became her enforcer. He started surprising me by coming home early to catch me. He took my phone at night, scrolling through texts like he was a detective. He installed a camera in the living room for the kids' safety, but I knew it was for me. Every day felt like prison. The final straw before the divorce was humiliating. Our washing machine broke, and when the repair guy left, Carol called Mark within the hour, like she had spies in my neighborhood. That night, Mark threw my wedding ring across the room and told me he was filing for divorce. Not because he had proof, not because I confessed, but because his mother said I had the look of a cheater. In court, he painted me as an unfaithful wife who brought random men around our children. He brought her to testify, and she cried on the stand about how she worried for her son's dignity. And the judge believed them. I lost custody. Me, the mother who never missed a school pickup, who stayed up with fevers, who packed lunches and kissed scraped knees. They handed my children to him because in their eyes I was unstable, promiscuous, unfit. All lies, all Carol's lies. And just like that, I went from a mother of two to a woman alone in a silent apartment, staring at an empty fridge where once family photos had hung. For 5 years, I lived in that silence. Don't forget to subscribe. Those 5 years felt like exile. I saw my kids only on rare weekends, supervised visits at first like I was some criminal. They were confused, distant, whispering things like, "Grandma says you don't love Daddy," or "Daddy says you chose other men over us." My heart broke every single time. Mark remarried 2 years after the divorce. Her name's Emily. She was everything Carol wanted in a daughter-in-law: quiet, polite, eager to please. Carol practically paraded her around town like a trophy. I had to swallow bile every time I saw Facebook photos of the happy family. My kids smiling with Emily, calling her mom, and captions Carol probably helped write. Meanwhile, Mark got worse. He'd show up late to drop-offs, smug, making little digs like, "Don't bring any of your boyfriends around the kids, Lauren." Sometimes he'd accuse me of things just to watch me squirm, once even asking the kids in front of me, "Do you think mommy's faithful now?" I could see the confusion on their faces, and I hated him for weaponizing their innocence. And Carol? She wasn't satisfied with just destroying my marriage. She had to salt the earth. She'd send me letters, actual handwritten letters, saying things like, "Your children are thriving without your bad influence," or "They'll thank me someday for saving them from you." I saved them all in a shoebox, because part of me wanted proof that I wasn't insane. But the worst moment came in year 4. My daughter, Lily, had a birthday party. I wasn't invited. Instead, I saw the photos online. My little girl blowing out candles while Emily held her, and Carol stood proudly behind them. I was erased, completely replaced. I spiraled after that. Therapy, antidepressants, empty bottles of wine. I hated myself for still hoping Mark would see the truth, even though deep down I knew he never would. He didn't want truth. He wanted loyalty to his mother. Then, something shifted. One night, scrolling through social media like I always did when the loneliness was unbearable, I saw a photo on Carol's page. She was bragging about her new home security system with top-of-the-line cameras, boasting about how she could watch everything in real time. At first, I rolled my eyes. But then a thought hit me so hard I sat up in bed. If those cameras were rolling while she was poisoning my marriage, maybe, just maybe, they caught her. And for the first time in years, I felt something spark inside me that wasn't grief or despair. Hope. The thought wouldn't leave me. Those cameras were running while Carol spun her lies. If they recorded audio, they could prove everything. But I had no way into her system. Carol guarded her house like a fortress, and I knew Mark would never give me access. Then fate threw me a crack in the door. Emily, the new wife, messaged me on Facebook. It was out of nowhere. Just a polite, cautious note. "Hey, Lauren. I know this might be awkward, but I have a question about the kids' school records. Do you have the login info? Mark can't find it." That tiny message told me everything I needed to know. Emily wasn't fully inside the fortress. She didn't have access to everything. Carol still pulled the strings, keeping her as much in the dark as she'd kept me. I hesitated, but I saw my chance. I replied, I don't have those records anymore, but Emily, just curious. Does Carol still use those new security cameras? She responded instantly. Oh God, yes. She watches them like it's reality TV. Sometimes she even calls the house mid-dinner to comment on where the kids are sitting. It's creepy. My pulse spiked. So I asked the question carefully, pretending to make small talk. Do they record sound? Emily. They sure do. She brags about it all the time. That was it. Proof existed. Somewhere, on Carol's own hard drives or cloud storage, were hours of her planting poison in Mark's ear. For weeks, I obsessed over how to get it. I considered lawyers, but my trust in the court system was gone. I considered sneaking onto her property, but Carol would use that to bury me further. Then, unbelievably, the opportunity presented itself. Emily again. This time she was venting. I'm honestly scared of her. She checks the footage daily and then calls Mark to complain about me, what I fed the kids, how I folded laundry. Sometimes I think she hates me as much as she hated you. That made me pause. As much as she hated me. And in that moment, I realized Emily wasn't my enemy. She was just the next target in line. So I told her everything. How Carol had destroyed my marriage with lies about repairmen. How she whispered poison until Mark turned violent and then left me. How I lost custody of my children because of Carol's manipulations. Emily went silent for almost 5 minutes. Then she finally replied, Lauren, I believe you. Because she's already doing the same to me. She explained Carol had started dropping hints that Emily might be too close with one of the dads at school, that she was keeping secrets. Exactly the same script. And Emily? She was sitting on access to those camera files. That was the first real hook in the story. The crack of light through the wall of darkness I'd lived in for years. Emily had what I needed. Don't forget to subscribe. Update. Wow. I didn't expect this to blow up the way it did. Honestly, I hesitated even hitting post because I thought people would tell me I was crazy or that I should just move on and accept my losses. But reading through the comments, I cried. For the first time in a long time, I felt like someone actually believed me. Some of y'all went straight savage. Burn her house down. Fake an affair with her priest. One person even DM'd me a whole step-by-step guide on how to access old security systems like I'm suddenly a hacker from a Netflix show. Tempting, not gonna lie. Others were gentle. A few shared their own stories of being alienated from their kids by manipulative in-laws. Those comments wrecked me the most because they reminded me I'm not alone. But the one that stuck in my head the most? Someone wrote, don't forget, people like Carol always overplay their hand. She'll destroy herself if you let her. That hit like a lightning bolt. Because here's the thing, I haven't even told you the craziest part yet. Remember how I said Emily reached out? Well, we've been talking. Like, really talking. And the stuff she's been telling me? It's like deja vu, like watching my own marriage get poisoned all over again, but in real time with her as the new target. Carol is recycling the exact same tactics, sowing suspicion, feeding lies, trying to control everything. But this time, there's a difference. This time, the cameras are rolling. And this time, I'm not alone. Emily has access to the archives. She admitted she's been terrified to even look because she didn't want to see what Carol's been saying about her. But after I told her everything, she said the words I'd been praying to hear for 5 years. Let's find the proof. So that's where we are. 2 women Carol underestimated, standing on opposite sides of the battlefield, ready to dig into her own weapons and turn them against her. To everyone who told me to keep fighting, I hear you. And I'm ready. The revenge hasn't even started yet. Emily wasn't bluffing. A week after that update, she called me whispering from her car. I found where the recordings save. Carol's too paranoid to trust the cloud, so she backs everything onto a local hard drive in her office. My stomach dropped. Proof was sitting in that woman's house. But how could we get it without Carol knowing? Emily had the answer. Mark gave me the spare key last month. She doesn't know. For the first time in years, I laughed. This woman had spent half a decade watching me with suspicion, but she never thought her perfect new daughter-in-law might be her undoing. That Friday, Emily slipped into Carol's house while she was at her weekly bingo night. My heart was pounding just hearing her describe it later. The office reeked of Carol's perfume, lavender, and cigarette smoke. The hard drive was right there, labeled neatly with dates. Emily grabbed two of them, shoved them into her bag, and got out before anyone saw. We met the next day in a coffee shop. Two women who technically should have been rivals, sitting shoulder to shoulder like war allies. We plugged the drive into Emily's laptop. What we saw made me physically shake. Footage after footage of Carol leaning in close to Mark, her voice syrupy and poisonous. Did you notice how friendly she was with the delivery man? You're too trusting, Mark. She'll embarrass you. A woman alone all day with men coming in and out. What do you expect? And the worst part? Watching Mark's face, the way he nodded, the way doubt crept in like a shadow. The man who once looked at me like I was his whole world sat there listening to his mother rip me apart piece by piece, and he believed her. But then came the clip that changed everything. Carol on the phone, bragging to one of her friends. Of course she never cheated, but Mark will never know that. He's easier to control when he thinks she did. Those words. I replayed them over and over, my throat tight, my hands shaking. 5 years of hell, custody lost. My children turned against me, and here she was, admitting it. Emily sat beside me, pale. Lauren, you could take her down with this. I wanted to scream, cry, smash the laptop to pieces. Instead, I just whispered, no, we'll do better. We'll let her destroy herself. Because now I had what she never expected me to have. Her own voice, her own poison, bottled and ready. And Emily? She was eager to help pour it. Emily and I didn't rush, we planned. Carol had spent years weaving her lies, and I wanted the undoing to be slow enough that she'd feel the walls closing in. Step 1 was Mark. Not directly. We both knew if I walked in with proof, he'd dismiss it as my manipulation. So Emily planted the seed. One night, while Carol was nagging her about how she folded the laundry, Emily casually asked, "Do those cameras even catch everything? I mean, sometimes it sounds like you're just guessing." Carol snapped, "Of course. Guessing. I have it all on tape, Emily. Everything. I've been protecting this family for years." Perfect. Step 2 was the reveal. Emily invited Mark over to her friend's house under the excuse of needing help with her laptop. She had the footage queued up, the one where Carol admitted I never cheated, that she only kept him paranoid to control him. Mark froze, his face drained. For 5 minutes, he said nothing. Then he asked Emily, "Where did you get this?" Her answer? "From your mother's own hard drive." He left without a word. Step 3 was public. Because this wasn't just about Mark. It was about reclaiming my name. Carol had destroyed me in our community, made neighbors whisper, made teachers look at me sideways. So when Emily invited me to the kids' school fundraiser, I said yes. Carol, of course, was there, front row, acting like queen of the family. Emily set the stage. During the raffle announcements, she accidentally plugged her laptop into the projector instead of the slideshow. And there it was. Carol on a grainy clip smirking into her phone saying, "Of course she never cheated, but Mark will never know that. He's easier to control when he thinks she did." The room went dead silent. You could hear the popcorn machine in the back wheezing. Carol jumped up screaming, "That's fake! That's edited!" But her voice was right there, echoing across the gym walls. Mark was there too. He didn't defend her. He didn't even look at her. He walked out, red-faced, humiliated, while parents and teachers stared daggers at the woman who'd spent years poisoning the well. For the first time in years, I felt air in my lungs. I wasn't the cheater. I wasn't the liar. The monster had exposed herself. And the best part? That was only the beginning. Update 2. I don't even know how to explain what the last week has been like. The school fundraiser incident, it went nuclear. First off, thank you to everyone who said, "Go public, make her eat her own poison." You were right. It wasn't just satisfying, it cracked her whole mask wide open. Parents I'd avoided for years suddenly came up to me whispering, "We always wondered if something was off." One mom even hugged me and said, "I'm so sorry for believing her." I cried in the damn parking lot. But Carol? She lost it. Full meltdown. She screamed at the principal for allowing slander in front of impressionable children. She tried to grab the laptop. Emily snatched it back. She stormed out, mascara running, shouting, "This isn't over," like some villain in a bad soap opera. Everyone saw it. Everyone. The aftermath at home? Mark hasn't spoken to her since. Emily told me he's been pacing the house, watching clip after clip, replaying the lies she fed him about me. She said he broke a chair in the garage when the kids were asleep. Not from anger at us, from realizing he destroyed our marriage because he trusted her more than me. And my kids? God, Reddit, this is the part that broke me. My son asked me during our last visit, "Mommy, did Grandma lie?" He looked scared, like the ground was crumbling under him. I told him the truth as gently as I could. "Yes, sweetheart, Grandma lied. But I never stopped loving you, not for 1 second." He burst into tears and hugged me so tight I thought my ribs would crack. The comments and DMs I've been getting are all over the place. Half of you are cheering, saying, "You already won, she's finished." The other half are warning me, "She's not going to go down quiet. Be ready." And you're right. Because Carol showed up at my apartment yesterday, banging on the door, screaming so loud neighbors came out. "You ruined me, you conniving whore!" She threw a rock at my window before storming off. I filed a police report. So yeah, she's unraveling. But here's the thing. I don't want just public humiliation. I want my kids back. And Emily, God bless her, she's already talking about testifying if I reopen the custody case. Carol took 5 years of my life, my marriage, my children. I'm done playing defense. It's time to take everything back. I knew I couldn't waste time. Carol was unraveling, and I had leverage she couldn't spin away. I contacted my old lawyer, the same one who'd watched me lose custody 5 years ago, and dropped a flash drive on his desk. Hours of footage of Carol planting lies, manipulating Mark, even bragging about framing me. He watched in silence, then leaned back and said, "Lauren, this is dynamite. With Emily willing to testify, we have a real shot." We filed within a week. A motion to reopen custody based on new evidence of manipulation and perjury. When the court date hit, I walked into that courthouse with my hands shaking, but my spine straighter than it had been in years. Emily was right behind me. Carol showed up, of course, dressed in her best pearls, face tight, acting like she was still queen of the family. But the moment the footage played in court, the moment her own voice filled the speakers, admitting I never cheated, her mask cracked. She lunged up from her seat, shouting, "That's fake! She doctored it!" The judge slammed his gavel, told her to sit down. She didn't. She started crying, wailing about how she only wanted to protect her son. It was chaos, the kind that makes everyone in the courtroom shift uncomfortably, watching a woman unravel in real time. And then Emily testified. Calm, steady. She told the judge how Carol had started targeting her with the same tactics, planting doubts about her fidelity. She confirmed the hard drives came from Carol's office. She confirmed Carol had bragged about manipulating Mark. Mark sat there pale, looking 10 years older. He didn't defend his mother. He didn't look at me either. Just stared at the table, broken. When it was over, the judge granted a review of custody. He didn't reverse it on the spot, but he ordered an investigation, something I never got the first time around. And for the first time in 5 years, I walked out of that courthouse feeling like the system was finally on my side. But Carol didn't take it quietly. That night, she showed up at Mark and Emily's house, screaming in the yard. Neighbors filmed her, red-faced, mascara-streaked, yelling about ungrateful children and scheming whores. She picked up a flower pot and smashed it against their garage door while the kids watched through the window. Police hauled her off in handcuffs for disorderly conduct. It was the image that spread through the community. The respectable Carol, arrested in her pearls, screaming like a madwoman, that finished her reputation. And me? For the first time since losing everything, I had momentum. The custody fight wasn't over yet. But Carol was done. The investigation moved fast, With the footage, the police report, and Emily's testimony, the court-appointed evaluator didn't need much convincing. She interviewed the kids, reviewed the files, and within weeks submitted her findings. Carol had engaged in sustained psychological manipulation, and my original custody loss was based on tainted testimony. The day of the final hearing, my chest felt like it was caving in. I sat at that same wooden table where 5 years earlier I'd been branded an adulterous and unfit mother. But this time, it was Carol in the hot seat. The evaluator's report was damning. It laid out how Carol engineered paranoia, used her influence over Mark to fabricate infidelity, and poisoned the children against me. When the judge asked Carol if she had anything to say, she exploded. She screamed about conspiracies, about how Emily and I planned this to steal her family. She pointed at me, calling me a home-wrecking slut, then at Emily, shouting, "Traitor." Bailiffs had to step closer. It was the perfect ending to her performance. Everyone in that room saw her for exactly what she was. The judge granted me joint custody immediately, with review for full custody pending Mark's stability. He ordered a restraining order against Carol. She was banned from unsupervised contact with my kids. When the gavel came down, I couldn't hold it back. I sobbed. Not just from relief, but from grief. For the 5 years stolen, the birthdays missed, the bedtime stories I never got to read. My son squeezed my hand in the hallway afterward and whispered, "Does this mean we get to be with you more, Mommy?" I couldn't even answer. I just hugged him until my arms ached. As for Mark, he's a ghost of himself. He apologized once in a flat voice, saying he didn't know who to believe. I didn't respond. Because here's the truth. Even if Carol lit the match, he let the fire spread. He chose her doubts over my love. And that's something I can never forgive. Emily, though, she's become my unlikely ally. She told me she's staying with Mark for now, but the spell is broken. She sees him, and his mother, clearly. She said, "If Carol taught me anything, it's how strong you really are." Carol, she's isolated. Her friends avoid her. Church asked her to take a break from volunteering after the arrest video made the rounds. The woman who once held her head so high now skulks through grocery aisles, a shadow of herself. I didn't need to burn her house down. I didn't need to scream or fight or break things. I just needed her own voice, her own poison, reflected back at her. And now, every time I tuck my kids into bed, every time I hear them call me Mommy without doubt in their eyes, I know. Carol's victory is ashes. Mine is just beginning.